Welcome to the Sykes Bottom Line Pharmacy Podcast, your regular dose of pharmacy CPA advice to fuel your bottom line, featuring pharmacists, key vendors, and other innovators. Well, hello, everybody. Thanks again for listening in to the Sykes Bottom Line Pharmacy Podcast. And today's guest is Greco De Valencia with Live Oak Bank. I think I pronounced that right, Greco.
I almost got it.
I almost got it.
Almost.
I've probably said it 100 times. I'll probably said it wrong every time. But appreciate you getting on, Greco, and kind of talking about some good old pharmacy issues that revolve around the banking industry there, and particularly Live Oak, as most listeners out there know, have a niche there in pharmacy lending. And Greco heads that up for the most part. And so Greco's you got a lot of experience in pharmacy, don't you, Greco?
Yeah. Thanks, Scotty. Thanks, everybody, for having me on. And I've been here at the bank for 7 years, 7 great years. And I've been in the pharmacy industry for almost 14 now. And it's been a great ride, and love working with the customer base. They're some of the best people to work with. Great folks.
So Greco, kind of get us rolling here with, what is the bank seeing? What are you seeing in terms of the current pharmacy marketplace with buy, sell, transitions? What are you guys seeing right now as we kick off 2023 here?
Yeah, so we just closed out 2022, obviously, and had a great year. Still saw a lot of activity in individuals wanting to purchase pharmacies, which is always very good. Saw a lot of activity for individuals that wanted to expand their business also. I think some of that had a little bit to do with some of the regional chains that were in the area that had closed down in specific regions. And people saw opportunities to expand their business. We saw a lot of owners still transition out, saying, hey, now's the time to leave. They got through 2020, 2021, they really saw the opportunity now. Hey, 2022 is the year that I want to be able to transition to somebody new. I think we're going to see more of that in 23, particularly as, 2024 with some of the DIR fee changes coming, how that's going to play out in people's decisions, I think is going to come out. But I also think, there's going to be a big opportunity for individuals to take over stores and grow them, because just some of the ideas that I hear from our new borrowers or people that are just going to enter into ownership on how to grow the business, how to market the business, it really excites me. And so I think we're going to have another good year of 2023, and that's what I'm looking forward to.
And I'm glad you brought that up, because there's obviously sellers getting out. They've put their time in, and now's a good time to get out. But you also see some buyers out there coming in with new ideas, fresh energy on how to grow pharmacy, what's new in pharmacy that they're going to grow into the wellness centers of their community, so on and so forth. But you also have those owners that are growing into multi-store owners as well. I know that was kind of a theme last year that we saw. But speaking on those owners that are coming in, newer ownership with those fresh ideas, what are some of those ideas you're seeing some of these owners bring to the table?
We've seen so great call on the multi-store ownership. We saw definitely that continue in 2022. I think we'll see that continue in 23 as well. For some of our newer owners that have either purchased recently in the last 2 years or 3 years, or some of the people that are looking to buy now, some of the ideas they have obviously are surrounding around how can they increase their cash business, right? And not just through OTC. It might be through other pharmacy services that they're offering to the community. A lot of them are also partnering more and more with how can they grow their prescription side, but maybe not necessarily always through the administration of medications, or maybe it's in tandem with, medication and making sure that the adherence is there, right? for lack of a better term, making sure that people are staying healthy, and how can they get incentivized through that? We've seen a lot of people collaborate actually with some of the PBMs to do so, or some of the local counties or cities that they're in, communities that they're in, to be able to do that. We've also seen people, continue to branch out into other niche offerings, compounding, care homes. A lot of people have not shied away necessarily from specialty. They may still be carving out a certain type of disease state that they're working with their prescribers on. Maybe not going full in like, we used to see back 5-6 years ago, where you were a strict specialty pharmacy, but people are trying to, I think, diversify into that. And obviously some of our borrowers who were big into immunizations benefit tremendously from a lot of the COVID vaccines and COVID administration. So that was really big for them. I think that gained them also some goodwill and recognition in the community. So all those things are part of what people are doing.
Yeah, I would say, I work primarily with transitions and those coming in looking at stores to purchase. And that's exactly what I'm seeing. I had 2 calls yesterday with those that are buying, looking at buying existing stores, and they're not looking just to buy, they're looking to buy, and they've got all these big ideas. So like you mentioned, it definitely surrounding wellness, compounding, clinical kind of stuff. That's what I'm hearing.
It's an exciting time.
Yeah,
it really is. I mean, this is a transition in pharmacy that was really accelerated with the pandemic, and there's no going back. I mean, you have got to transition. You have got to expand that role of pharmacy because that is the future. I mean, would you agree with that, Greco?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think the number one message we give to a lot of people that are looking to buy a store or expand their store or come to us for maybe the first time, one of the biggest things we tell them all the time is that, if you're just going to rely on the prescription drugs and that's it, you're going to have a lot of volume for that. And some people do, some people are out there finding those $9-10 million revenues, 400, 500 scripts a day type of thing. And that might be okay in the beginning, but we tell them all the time, how are you going to increase the gross profit through script, the gross profit per script, what are you going to do? And that's where some of the ideas are coming out on how to do that. Because if you're just going to rely on the prescription side, that might work for a short period of time, but for the long term and for the growth, because people get into business for growth, right? That's the point, the idea of the entrepreneurship. For them to be able to do that, they have to have these other ideas. And the answers are out there. Just takes a little bit of work sometimes in collaboration, but we're still seeing people very excited to do that.
And I have a question. So for a lot of pharmacists that I know I work with the DIR fees and the nature of the business, the cash flow is a little tight. So, as a bank, I know you're a business partner that kind of helps to make different ventures, different ideas, the entrepreneurial spirit happen. They kind of rely on you. Mm-hmm. So if someone says, I would like to get into compounding, or I would like to maybe do more long-term care or specialty, but that's going to even put a tighter drain on my already tight cash flow. Do you see pharmacists coming to you for opportunities to kind of expand their current business model, not necessarily buying a whole new one, but to just further expand the business model that they have? Is that something that a bank is able to assist with?
Yeah, I mean, so to one of your first points, you're absolutely right, Kendall. I mean, it is still a pretty thin margin business compared when you look at some other types of business models, right? It is something where you still have to really watch your numbers. And that's another thing we encourage people, really fall in love with that common size P&L statement. Understand your financials. You don't have to be experts in it like you guys are, but it's a really good idea to at least have an idea about where your wages are compared to revenues, because that'll kind of give you a good idea for the next point that you're talking about, which is how do you get financing for capital for growth? And to answer your question directly, yes, we are still seeing that. Yes, we still lend working capital. We're not afraid of helping people grow their business, but primarily it's because they already have a good business model. It doesn't have to be great, but a good business model in place. If they're struggling because of mismanagement, or they're struggling because they haven't really put in that type of programs to help grow the business incrementally year over year, that might be a little more challenging. In those situations, I encourage people to really focus on how to clean up the current house. But for people who have been running a good business and have new ideas for growth, and we are seeing a lot of them, again, because certain chains or regional chains are exiting, there's opportunities there for lives to be serviced. And we'll help them with that working capital growth, be it 350, 500, whatever the number might be. And we love partnering with people like that. So I encourage anybody that has those ideas for 2023, reach out to us. We'd love to partner and hear about what your plans are.
So I'm going to go ahead and ask this question because I get asked by clients all the time. Since we're talking about current trends, what are you seeing as far as interest rates? How is that looking moving forward in 2023? Do you think?
Yeah, interest rates have definitely been a wild ride here, it's a hockey stick, and it is cause for concern. Obviously, I think anytime you have that many interest rate hikes in a short period of time, in tandem with all the information, the proliferation of information that we have on our iPhones and news, it's going to cause a lot of questions. And I've often wondered, how many potential buyers that might have put on the sidelines that never just thought about reaching out, which is too bad, because while you have to be concerned about the cost of the money, the interest rates, relative to historical numbers and relative to, what they could be in some other types of financing options, they're still relatively low. I just think the rapid rise of it has caused people to kind of do a double take. But I've always said this, that if individuals didn't over leverage themselves in the very beginning, they're able to weather these types of increases, right? And, for us, you can't undo a loan that you did. You can't undo a financing project that you did in the past. But I'm very confident in the fact that we do such due diligence. We provide borrowers with more of wiggle room than maybe another bank might give, so that they're able to weather these types of increases. And so, I understand people's concerns, but if you didn't over leverage yourself in the beginning, then you should be okay. Everybody's situation is different, obviously, but that's how I'm seeing it. Interest rates, I think, are going to level off. That's just my own personal opinion. And then we'll see kind of what happens with the economy. Depends on what the Fed see, and depends on which numbers that they're looking at.
So Greco, kind of give listeners some of the lending options that you guys provide for those looking to maybe listen in that's thinking about buying a store or getting into ownership. Kind of walk through that from your perspective.
Yeah, so Live Oak Bank is the number one SBA lender by volume. So SBA 7A, the Small Business Administration 7A product, is one of our main products that we offer. We have non-SBA conventional loans as well, and we focus, I would say, first and foremost on just like you talked about, transitions, mergers, and acquisitions. And we run the gamut from the first time owner to the multi-store owner who owns many. And that's something that we pride ourselves in is doing very well, knowing the space and helping individuals with due diligence, and then the structure as well, right? Making sure the structure of the loan, the structure of the financing project is correct so that they can be successful. We also do commercial real estate projects, which I think we might see more of now that there might be a little bit of a softening in the commercial real estate prices because of the rise in interest rates. And I always encourage pharmacy owners, if they can buy the building, do so, because you control your own destiny first and foremost. and you have a appreciating asset that you now own, usually for the most part, it's going to be a rent replacement situation where the rent and the monthly payments will usually wash out or be about the same. Usually, every situation is a little bit different. And then if they ever decide and elect to, sell the business or after they pay off the loan, and now they have a piece of property that they can rent out to the next person. So we'll do commercial real estate. We do working capital loans for growth, like we talked about. And we are also looking at doing, and we've done in the past, backfill projects for people who might be looking at, a pharmacy exited. Hey, here's a business plan I have. We'll do a back project. We do those a little bit more carefully because obviously they're going to be projection based, so they're startups. Even though there may have been a customer base that's already there, but a lot of times those make a lot of sense. And for the right project, we'll do that as well.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of successful backfills.
Yeah, absolutely. They
sure.
work.
Is it going back to a little bit of pre-pandemic numbers? Some of my pharmacists that I work with, meaning if I look at their gross profit and I look at their percentage of wages of gross revenue and things of that nature, the numbers the end of 2022 is more comparable to around 2018 to 2019. But I think a lot of you get used to the 2020s and the 2021s really quickly. You just get used to that influx of cash that's there, and you get used to the subsidies and maybe having a very high bank balance. It's quickly how our mind adjusts, and then the numbers go back to kind of where it was before on a month-in-month basis. And it's like, what's happened? The sky is falling. It's like, well, this is kind of how the pharmacy.
Well, I hear that a lot. It's like, what's happened to my cash? Well, you're not getting all this free money right now. That's the difference. We got to go back to where it was, more normal. ERTC. Oh, I will not. Everybody's declined ERTC. Over it.
Yeah. A quick question for you guys. I mean, as bankers, we're always looking at people's debt service coverage ratios, their liabilities. So we're looking at a lot of that. But what would you guys suggest 2 or 3 KPIs that people should know or want to know going into 2023 to help prepare better?
Well, you got to have that balance sheet tied down first and foremost. If you don't have the balance sheet, you don't have the P&L, and then you don't have anything. So the balance sheet is going to be number one, tying that down. A full accrual balance sheet to give you the full picture of the pharmacy. Obviously, your margin is extremely important. Where is that margin? Margin's tied directly with receivables and inventory. So on the balance sheet, so those balance sheet items need to be tied down. You need to be doing everything you can on the inventory side. That's a huge cost in the pharmacy, obviously. Wages is clearly area of opportunity in pharmacy. You're seeing DR fees continue to grow, but I can tell you that the pharmacies that are engaged, and I like to use the word engaged in their DR fees, and they're doing everything they can to manage it, understand it, know the payers, know the issues, concerns, kind of know the underlying fundamentals of those DR fees in their pharmacy. Their DR fees are usually less than what you typically see for those pharmacies that are just letting it happen. So being engaged in DR fees, and then once you have those pieces in place, then you can start looking at your cash flow, liquidity ratios. Where am I? Where's money coming out? Is it debt? Is it personal distributions? Is my payroll too high? Then you can start putting together those pieces of where cash is, where a cash flow concern might be, and then of course, kind of projecting out how you can plan for 24 with your liquidity ratio and things like that. So it's putting the whole puzzle together and yeah.
And you've got to be able to trust the numbers. And so like Scotty mentioned, to me, it's not just someone giving me an inventory number that they kind of sort of maybe cycle counted or, yeah, I mean, it's really knowing, a great perpetual inventory system in place so that we know that inventory number that we're getting is right, because the gross profit doesn't really tell us anything if it's just coming from an estimate from, same thing with third party receivables. There's still lots of pharmacies that we come across that are out there that don't have anything in place as far as keeping that reconciled. It's an estimate.
Yeah, we see that a lot too.
So, but a good reconciliation service, so we know again that that's a firm number. All that goes into the sales projection and the cost of goods sold inventory that actually gives you that gross profit number. So then if those two things are perfect, then we know that gross profit number is right. Yeah. Otherwise it could be off.
Yeah, it could be off. And if you're off by 1% or 2%, that makes a big difference to the bottom line.
That throws all your other KPIs off.
Greco, let me ask you a question here.
Have you sure.
How much weight and you might not be able to answer this, I don't know, but how much weight is kind of you guys, the underwriting, how much weight are you guys putting on just pharmacies looking to purchase pharmacy where they're not, there's no, I'm having a hard time putting this together. I
think I know what you mean, where there's not those types of things that you guys were all talking about.
But I'm talking about the top line. So if a pharmacy comes to you where they're just filling scripts, I mean, as an underwriter, you might say, hey, that's, I don't know. I mean, you want to see pharmacists coming in that are going to grow that top line other than just maybe filling scripts, right? How much weight are you putting on that?
Diversification of the revenue. Like how important is the diversification of the revenue outside of filling prescriptions?
It almost seems like going forward, it's going to be a requirement in a pharmacy. You're going to have to find something other than just filling scripts.
Yeah, I think I understand what your question is. So, well, it's a nuanced one because you have to look at it from the perspective of someone's buying a pharmacy, and let's say an individual's owned one for 20 or 25, maybe even more years. You almost can't get critical of the current owner because that's what it has always been, right? Yeah, it's worked. So I think you have to look at what are the trends of those top lines? What do they derive from? Are there any concentration risks in any one particular medication it's causing or any one particular prescriber? So that's the first thing you have to look at, right? And then you have to kind of say to the new owner, and I think, Scotty, this is to your point, okay, so this is what the current owner's done. We want to make sure that you understand that you have a smooth transition with it. That's that transition period between when the new owner takes over and the old owner exits out, because you want that to be smooth and as people in the industry say, a kumbaya phase, right? But then the question does become, okay, so what's your plan then after that, quantitatively and qualitatively? And that's where the questions become in your projections. And to any new owner who's thinking about buying, yes, you have to put together projections. No, they do not have to be equal to what, the Federal Reserve might project on where the economy's going. It's just very simple, right? I'm going to increase revenues by 1 or 2%. And here's how I'm going to do that. And if it's in my prescription side, okay, what's my average, revenue per script today, and where do I want to take that, and how am I going to get there? If it's going to be more in, hey, I think my revenues are only going to incrementally increase, but my gross profit's going to go up. How are you going to do that? And it might be just as simple as managing inventory better, right? I think you guys hit on something which is the biggest low-hanging fruit for any new owner is, implementing a perpetual inventory system where the current owner may not have done that because, frankly, they just never needed to, or maybe they were a little scared to do that because it was changed to the staff and it involved technology. And, I think that's one of the biggest low-hanging fruits. We have some clients here in my area in California who purchased a pharmacy, and it was a good one. But they've just knocked it out of the park from there. And one of the first things they said when they got in, the current owner always carried roughly between 350 inventory, right? And they said that they were able to manage it on 150. And at first I was kind of like, that seems thin, but because they implemented perpetual inventory, because they started to get people on MedSync so that they kind of had more of a predictive approach to their inventory, and they were really able to do so. And today they're running upwards to a $9 to $10 million pharmacy on pretty, what I think from the if we all looked at the inventory number, we might be like, that's not possible. But because they have these systems in place, the cash isn't getting held up on the shelves with the inventory. So I always think that's one of the first low-hanging fruit things that a new owner can do and look at.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of a question I was going to ask you, because I get this a lot, again, working with people that are, looking to purchase stores. And Greco, we've done the NCPA ownership workshop together many times.
Nice plug there, Brian.
But I get asked a lot, oh, it's not just a plug. I mean, that's the place to be if you're looking to start.
One's a virtual one. I'll do one extra plug. Virtual one's coming up here at the end of the month. So
it is. And I'm sure you can still sign up. I think it's the 28th and 29th. But they asked, obviously you guys want them to have good credit. You want them to have a good business plan. But, I get asked a lot, how much of that do you look at the person and you're really actually just analyzing whether or not that person kind of has that entrepreneurial spirit? And because I know you feel it. You talk to some people sometime and it's like, you just know. If you didn't even hear their plan, you can just tell in what they say and how they act and everything about them, they're going to be successful, and you're usually right about it. But how much do you guys weigh on just kind of your gut feel on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of where it gets a little more of an art than a science. The science is the numbers, right? So first and foremost, you never want to have somebody go into a project where the numbers don't make sense, because then, negative trends are not easily reversed. So we got to make sure that someone is going to be able to pay the debt day one as the business is, right? Now, where that comfort level is depends a little bit on what you're talking about, Bonnie, on the qualitative side of somebody. And, we're willing to partner with the right person and get them in a little tighter deal at the current time. And because they have these great ideas on how to grow the business, they have this plan. They may even have a track record of doing so in the current business that they're in. And that can give us a lot of faith that, hey, they might be at a little thinner debt service coverage today, but because they have these ideas and we've seen them work in the marketplace, they're not like first time ideas out there. Then they're going to increase the business. It might take a little bit of time, but that's in there. Another factor too that we're seeing more and more of is a leadership factor, right? How to get their employees to be engaged in the business. And I think that's an often overlooked aspect of things. We're always so focused on how are you going to grow the numbers, how are the numbers. How are you going to manage people? That's the qualitative side of things, the emotional intelligence. How are you going to lead? How are you going to sell? How are you going to sell your services to the community or to the prescribers or to these individuals where you want to go after the business? And so that's a big thing too. But all those things we put them in, and that's where the science becomes, right? And all the years that we've been doing this and the years that I've been in this space, you start to develop a good, keen sense of where and who to put a lot of faith in.
Yep. That's a great point there, Greco, the team environment and how you can lead your team, because it is a pretty common denominator when you see success in a pharmacy. It's usually the team is fully engaged in every bit of that pharmacy. And we've got a lot of examples of that for sure. Mm-hmm. But Greco, I guess we kind of wrap it up here with the bottom line and kind of a summary of what your bottom line is. So who wants to start it? Bonnie, how about you start us off on the bottom line today?
Well, I'm just going to reiterate what we just said because that's huge. We see that a lot. I could name 3 or 4 right now, pharmacies that we work with that have an awesome team. I think that's a big key in what Greco is talking about, what they're looking for when they're looking at standing behind someone with a loan, is that you've got someone that's has a great potential to be a good leader, and have that team behind them that's going to stick with them thick or thin and grow that pharmacy.
Very nice.
Very good.
Something you wouldn't think about with lending,
Well
but
said.
I just learned that. So that's my bottom line.
Good.
I'll shoot next. I think obviously as accountants, we work really hard to execute the numbers. But one thing, Greco, you highlighted several times is that as a pharmacist, you got to at least understand or have a high level touch point on what your numbers are. So we have to work day in and day out to make sure the numbers are right. But at the very least, for a pharmacist, periodically, they should have an understanding of where they're at. And with this ever-changing market, I mean, last year it's all the money coming in. This year it's the DIR fees, all the money leaving. It's just, you can't really control the wind, but you can set your sails. But the only way you can set your sails is if you know where you're at currently. So know where you're at and be able to be nimble with all the changing forces that are coming.
Yeah.
That was well said there, Kendall. Yeah, that was
deep, Kendall. It was good.
Yeah, that was good.
Well
That was-
spoken.
I'm just going to I'm going to go with the, I guess I could go with a couple different bottom lines.
You can't follow up after that one.
Well, that's a wrap. I guess I'll just say, I guess the theme, what kind of theme TW started with, mindset. It's about that mindset. And I'll just keep saying what I've always said. I think there's more opportunity in pharmacy today than there's really ever been to really grow into those healthcare community centers for their communities. And it's an exciting time if you're looking to get into it. And Live Oak Bank, you guys have the experience to help those pharmacies. So that would be my bottom line. Greco?
All right, I'm going to try my first bottom line here. See how I do. I 100% agree on mindset. I think people need to be prepared for that. It's not going to be easy, but the opportunities are there, and it's how you're going to achieve them and how you're going to approach them is really going to be the defining reason for your success. I love that idea about mindset. And I'll just encourage everybody, whether you own a pharmacy now or you are thinking about owning a pharmacy, understand those numbers, know the numbers, just get familiar with them. And then you'll have a partner like myself and my team at Live Oak Bank to walk you through what they mean and how they impact your future. Because for a lot of people out there, buying their business is the largest asset that they will ever, and biggest purchase they'll ever put in. People put in their entire lives on this. So don't just guess. Don't just think it's going to work. Know it's going to work. And
go to the NCPA ownership workshop.
Exactly.
There's that plug.
Absolutely.
There is a strong correlation with success in that workshop. I can tell you that.
For us, especially, I can't tell you how many clients we've got that have a successful pharmacy, and they'll tell you that's where they started. So
that's true.
Got to be something. Yeah.
Well, because you're around a lot of other people that want to be successful too.
Yes.
And
it's a great group to feed off of.
Yeah. Yep. The old saying, proximity, is their success is a lot about proximity, right? Proximity to successful people. So
Kendall and I were on one not long ago that there were folks on there that were still in school.
They're
they
ready.
Just wanted to jump in and learn.
Awesome.
And you create relationships that you'll utilize. It's not just that weekend. Those relationships that are built are going to be a part of your, like your cabinet of advisors that you're going to keep for the duration of your career as a pharmacy owner. So I think that's huge.
Greco, Live Oak Bank does present at that program. Yep.
Yeah, I'll be presenting. I always enjoy presenting that. Always look forward to that. And people know that work with me. It doesn't stop there. I'll continue to help them and walk them through a lot of information. And so, I'm passionate about education. Always
awesome.
passionate.
Well, we appreciate you getting on and sharing your passion with us today, Greco. we'll have to do it again sometime soon. All you out there listening, we appreciate you listening in. If you have any questions, comments, let us know. Ask Sykes at Sykes-CPA.com, and like, subscribe, all that good stuff, share, whatever. We would appreciate it. So thank you all, and thank you, Greg.
Thanks a lot, everybody.
Thank
Have
you.
a great 2023.
Your QuickBooks check. Your checks, yes.